Great. Is 10 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Dawn, if you can do the roll call, please.
Absolutely. I want to let folks know also that we are live streaming and recording this meeting. Both of those have started already. Jerry Abrahams.
Here.
Bettina Brown Eyes.
Here.
Cindy Butts. Wendy Clark. Phil DeFranco. Heidi de Weingart.
Here.
Claudio Gualtieri. Timothy Hodges. Catherine McKinnon. Commissioner Mosquera Bruno.
Here.
Commissioner Perez. Franklin Perry. Matt Puglisi.
Present.
Chelsea Ross.
Here.
Lisa Tepper Bates.
Here.
Greg Ugalde.
Present.
We do have a quorum in attendance for the meeting.
Phil DeFranco's here also.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Dawn. Dawn, you can go ahead with the public comments.
Of course. This is the only opportunity on the agenda for the public to provide comments. If you would like to provide a comment, please unmute yourself and state your name. To ensure that everyone has the opportunity, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are in the room to provide a comment, please let us know. Hearing no comments, the public comment period has now ended. Commissioner, I'll turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Dawn. As I said before, good morning, everyone. Happy spring, rainy day. So we're going to have our CEO to give us the executive director's report.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you, Heidi and Lisa, in person. I want to welcome Bettina Brown Eyes, who's sitting in for Sarah Sanders today. So earlier in March, I had the opportunity to travel to DC with a couple of my team members to attend NCSHA's legislative conference. This is our annual pilgrimage to DC to meet with other housing finance agency representatives, discuss federal housing programs and their impacts. And while we're there, we take the opportunity to meet with members of Congress and in particular our delegation members to advocate for Connecticut, advocate for legislative priorities that are important to NCSHA and to the state housing finance agencies to help preserve and expand housing resources. So this year was no different. We had some really fruitful meetings with Senators Blumenthal, their staff, Senator Murphy, his staff, Representative DeLauro, and Representative Courtney. Unfortunately, Representative Larson was not available to meet with us, but he's generally very supportive of our work. And you know, we had some great discussions with these lawmakers about their concerns relating to home ownership opportunities, the need for more supply of affordable housing and workforce housing demands. In particular, they were thrilled to hear about the fact that CHFA has committed all the federal ARPA funds through the My Home CT program. In particular, I wanted to call out one thing that was sort of top of mind at the time. It's the tax package that was making its way through Congress. It was one of the biggest pushes, you know, during the conference. And at the time, there was optimism that that this would finally make it. And in that tax package, there was significant support and financial support for the low-income housing tax credit program, enabling us to increase our production and supply of new units. Unfortunately, by the end of the conference, we heard that it was on life support. But since then, we've heard that it has been resuscitated and maybe is now in critical condition. So we're, you know, obviously a big disappointment in terms of the path forward, but we're hoping that there's still going to be a path to make this happen. And of course, as we get closer to the election season, I think the light starts to dim a little bit more. So more to come on that. In the last week, the Council of State Governments, which is an organization of state governments across the continental United States, US territories, and as far north as Canadian provinces, the Eastern region held its first housing summit at the state capitol in Hartford. And I was invited to be part of a panel with the Deputy Commissioner of Housing, Brandon McGee, and a nonprofit housing developer from Boston, from POA. And it was a good panel. But before the panel, we did this interesting tour of a development in the Frog Hollow neighborhood of Hartford called Billings Forge. This was a development that CHFA financed through the 4% credit and tax exempt bonds back in 2017. Very innovative and interesting way to bring the community into the development and have resident participation and engagement through the vehicle of providing access to healthy food, training opportunities in the retail and restaurant industries, and really empowerment and just access through like a community garden or farmer's market, a really powerful and symbolic way to bring the community into the development and have the development integrate with the community as well. So really happy to be a part of that tour. The panel itself was really interesting. There were legislators from as far north attending the summit, from as far north as Quebec, Maine in terms of the continental United States, and then Delaware, and as far south as the US Virgin Islands. And it was interesting because most everybody has resonated with the issues around, and my panel was focused on the cost of affordable housing. So, you know, why, what's making affordable housing so complex? What makes it so complex? What's increasing its complexity? What can policymakers do? And it was a good discussion. There was the deputy commissioner, and the commissioner also had a little part to play in the panel, although she was not on the panel itself. But she welcomed people after the panel and, you know, shared details about Connecticut's own programs and our resources. So, and the next day there was a whole day of panels, and the governor spoke. A great opportunity to hear from others and to network. And then finally, I just wanted to share a couple of words about something that's happened recently that I'm sure a lot of you are aware of, the National Association of Realtors settlement as a result of the class action lawsuit brought by some homeowners. And again, the ink isn't quite dry, and it's still awaiting court approval, but we are aware that there are some potential real unintended consequences as a result of the settlement, you know, getting done. For those of you who may not be aware, it would eliminate the requirement to list offers of compensation by sellers to cooperating brokers representing the buyer. What that will do potentially is, you know, require buyers to negotiate with their own broker to pay them for their work. It could ultimately result in some interesting dynamics in terms of home prices, because right now the commission is sort of baked into the cost of the home. And it will really change the face of the industry potentially, because real estate commissions have been set for so long in some very particular ways. And so we're watching this. We know the MBA is concerned about it and is working to answer some really important questions around how this will affect lending, especially with respect to the GSE and secondary market insurer requirements around the maximum seller contributions in the event that the seller provides a concession or is able to pay a portion of that buyer broker fee. What does that mean in terms of the maximum amounts allowable by the GSEs? Does that now render those amounts ineligible, in which case it falls to the first-time home buyer to come up with those funds? There's also a question around VA borrowers not being able to pay realtor fees. And so, there's a lot of unanswered questions, a lot that's in play here. It could impact the spring market potentially because if this goes into effect July 1, there's a question about whether sellers would want to take, any action right now pending this going into effect in the summertime. So I just wanted to bring that to all of our attention. We are going to watch it closely and see what develops in the next few months. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Nandini. Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Thank you for the report. Hazim, Finance.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. For your consideration is a resolution to authorize CHFA to issue up to 250 million of the Housing Mortgage Finance Program bonds. The sale will allow CHFA to raise additional lending proceeds to fund about 1,021 first-time homebuyer loans. As of March 18, CHFA had an aggregate net pipeline of about 223 million. CHFA will utilize a fixed rate structure and expect to close around May. To stretch CHFA's capacity in tax-exempt issuance, CHFA intends to supplement the issuance with taxable bonds. RBC is assigned as the book running manager for the bonds. The resolution was presented to Finance Committee this morning, and the committee did not have any question, and the resolution was approved unanimously by committee. And I'll be happy to answer any question the board may have at this time.
Thank you, Hazim. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution presented by Hazim?
So moved.
Have a second?
Bettina, second.
You got that, Don?
Should we flip a coin? I'll record Bettina if that's all right.
All right, yeah, now, Don, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Jerry Abrahams,
Aye.
Bettina Browners,
Aye.
Cindy Butts, Wendy Clark.
Yes.
Phil DeFranco,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri, Timothy Hodges, Catherine McKinnon, Commissioner Mascara-Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
thank you, Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Lisa Tupper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
Thank you. The vote passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Mortgage Committee doesn't have any items this meeting. Maybe they'll bring us a lot more items at the next meeting. Pat, do you have a resolution regarding the application for capital magnet fund?
Yes.
Would you go ahead and present the resolution?
Sure thing. Good morning, everybody. Before you is a request for your approval for CHFA to submit an application for Capital Magnet Fund Program grant for 2024 in the amount of $2 million and for the approval of an allocation of CHFA resources of up to $2 million to match those funds. Capital Magnet Fund is a program that comes from the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund of the Department of the Treasury. Funding amounts vary each year and are awarded based on the strengths of the application. Awards are to be dedicated to the development, rehabilitation, preservation, and purchase of affordable housing for low, very low, and extremely low income families. In 2020, CHFA received an award of $3 million, which it matched with $3 million in CHFA resources. Those funds were successfully deployed as gap fillers for several of our developments, including Curtis Cofield in New Haven, which coincidentally is celebrating its groundbreaking later this morning. The application deadline is April 16th. Terry Nash has been working with other CHFA staff in assembling a complete and convincing application. Approval of our board is required as part of the application. And we have reviewed our existing pipeline and have identified several candidates that could benefit from the allocation. With your approval, we will finalize and submit the application prior to the deadline, and award announcements are expected in the fall.
Thank you, Pat. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve?
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, just, had we picked 2 million, why not the 3 or more that?
The amount, the total aggregate amount is going down this year, and what we're trying is a strategy to build up. Last year, we requested 6 million, if you recall, and we weren't successful in our request. So our strategy is to ratchet it down and then maybe build upon that as we go forward.
Any other comment or question?
So Pat, so CMF's great program. What are the limitations on this money versus like what we would do through bond proceeds? In other words, I know we've done this before, but are we, I know, and we're using this money similar to we use just our basic program money as I understand it, but is this is a award by, I guess it's Treasury under this program, is that money that could presumably be more flexible? And have you guys looked at that versus what we are obligated to do under our bond proceed monies or other monies that we get?
Yeah, it is more flexible for us. And we have limitations as to how much soft subsidy the state has for a lot of these developments. And so with these low, very low and extremely low projects, these have been vital in terms of completing that capital stack. So there are eligibility requirements, but we've identified plenty in our pipeline that would benefit from the use of these funds. So we do have flexibility, and it's been very beneficial. If you remember Easton and Dillon and Hartford we did last year, there were several projects that couldn't have made it through without these capital items.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, Dawn, please do the roll call.
Sure. Jerry Abrahams,
Hi.
Bettina Browners,
Aye.
Cindy Butts, Wendy Clark,
Yes.
Phil DeFranco,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gautieri, Timothy Hodges, Catherine McKinnon, Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the discussion on the compensation study recommendations. I would like to table this item for next meeting. Couple of things. We have been so busy at the state level that Commissioner Perez, myself, and Sarah, we have been in several meetings, so we have not had the time to complete some of the questions and some of the basic questions of those board members. And we also said that we would be meeting with them. I had to cancel the personnel committee because I have public hearings. So I would like to table it so that we can have the time to really talk to everyone. If I can have a motion to.
So can we put it on next month's agenda?
Yeah.
Without,
That's what I'm gonna
further
table
delay?
it for next month. If I had, I can
I'll
have-
make that motion.
Thank you, Greg. Have a
I'll
second.
second it.
Any questions? John,
Jerry Abrahams,
Aye.
Bettina Browners,
Aye.
Cindy Butts, Wendy Clark,
Yes.
Phil DeFranzo,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
Yes.
Claudio Gualtieri, Timothy Hodges, Catherine McKinnon, Commissioner Mosquera Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you, Dawn. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda approval?
I'll move.
Motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second Chelsea.
Thank you. Don, could you do the roll call, please?
Jerry Abrahams,
Aye.
Bettina Brown Eyes,
I abstain as I wasn't party to the minutes of that
Thank you.
meeting.
Cindy Butts, Wendy
Sure.
Clark,
Yes.
Phil DeFranzo,
Yes.
Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri, Timothy Hodges, Catherine McKinnon, Commissioner Mosquera Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Franklin Perry,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi,
Yes.
Chelsea Ross,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes with one abstention.
Thank you, Dawn. Before we end the meeting, since we have a little bit of time, I'd like to take 5 minutes just to update the board on the Interagency Council on Homelessness. Probably many of you heard that the governor established the Interagency Council on Homelessness about a couple of months ago with the idea to bring together all the agencies and work in coordination and make sure that we are utilizing all our resources in the best way. In December, we announced about $45.8 million to for different programs, operation in the homeless system, diversion money, and also the support of some hubs that we established last year to, in addition to 211, people now there are places where they can go and they can talk to a person and get some resources. The idea behind this is that basically to support the work that we have been doing since October last year, meeting with all the service providers across the region and see how we can effectively support them, but also how can we house people that are in need of housing. In addition to building the affordable units, but also we have been building some hotels and providing the support so that the resources on the health and housing come together. Mental health, substance abuse, for example, in a hotel that is going to be opening up in Hartford with a nonprofit CRT. So we provided the resources to acquire the building and to remodel, making the first floor accessible to some of those services. So the Interagency Council work is very targeted to bring those resources together. It's cabinet level. And then we are working with our service provider. We have about 30 service providers in the region working as a working group, looking at what is working, what is not working, how we can make more efficiencies. And they have divided in smaller groups where they're gonna bring us some recommendations. The goal at the end of the day is that by the end of the summer, we should have a strategic plan so that we can direct and we present to the governor for next year's budget to make sure that we not only put in resources, but we have a plan forward how we're going to utilize those resources. The groups include some groups are working on processes. Some other groups are working on making recommendations or more targeted housing for some special needs clients. And the other groups are looking into the staff capacity as well as technology. because right now, many of them are saying that the technology they use in different systems and everybody's using different systems. So with that, we have provided the resources in addition to the 45 million. We also provided the $5 million for the winter for the winter protocol, helping people. Some people are using some temporary places, some other ones that are using hotels as we use it through the pandemic. So we have a very short period of time where we're working. We have a full-time person dedicated to work with all the service providers. And we have a couple of other people on technology that are working with the staff. So once we go through this process, I'll keep you informed. Nandy is part of the council, and many of the other, I think we have about 7 agencies that are core members of this interagency council. So we're meeting every month. The working groups are meeting every week. And the idea is that they would come and present some of their recommendations for us to take action and then put it into a strategic plan with some resources behind that. So just giving you a brief overview of what we're doing with the interagency council. Any comments or questions?
Yes, thank you very much, Commissioner, and it's an important initiative. But just for the purposes of this board, I just want us all to recall that the homeless emergency response system is like the emergency room at a hospital. It doesn't cure you. It doesn't address your chronic condition. It just sort of tries to stabilize you in that moment. We have a very urgent problem in Connecticut that's gotten worse, which is the lack of affordable housing. And it's gotten much worse in the last few years with the effects of the pandemic. Our rental market is tighter than it's been in more than a decade. So you can't move people out of homeless shelters unless there's housing to move them to. So we have a real problem. And I just want to underscore that. I think we all know that. But it's really urgent that we tackle the problem of how to increase the stock of affordable housing. And this gets back, Pat, to something I know that I've asked about a couple of times, which is to develop an understanding of the net effect. How much are we losing every month, or excuse me, every year? And how much are we actually increasing the stock of affordable housing? And I don't think we have a clear idea about that. And I understand that's multiple data sources, but I think it's really important that we as a board understand that and understand our role, because there's only so much you're ever going to be able to do through the homeless system if we don't have the housing.
And that is exactly right, Lisa, why we're doing this. And it's not a study that is going to take 2 years. We are really working by the summer, which everybody was smiling at the beginning because we said from April to the summer, we're going to have the plan. Yes, we're going to have the plan. But some of the things that we have been discussing there is also how do we do the inventory on the supportive units that we have? Are they really, some of them are the vacancy rate that we have? How do we infuse some resources so that those can come back online? And also, as you mentioned, right, it is an emergency room to triage. And right now, it's just everybody comes to that system. And when everybody comes to that system, it's overwhelmed. So we're trying to find ways where we not separate, but the resources that are available for those that just need that light touch, as being said, in providing a little more resources on that diversion, if you will, and then also try to do some other things, because it's not just one approach. We have to have multiple approach. And with the service providers coming to work with us and direct what things are working, what things are not working. And some of the providers have said that we are so restricted in some areas, in some funding that we give them, that they cannot really utilize it because of regulation. So we're looking at all that and what is the end game that we're going to have with that. So thank you for bringing it to light too. So we'll keep you informed as we move along, because CHFA will be also part of that recommendation that we're going to have.
I mean, I just want to add one thing, which is building traditional low-income affordable housing is largely a resource issue. Traditional, I mean, like through the low-income housing tax credit program. It's expensive. And so I think as a state, we have to really commit ourselves to looking at other ways of creating that stock. And I know there's lots of interesting ideas out there about how to do that. You know, how to make that part of our DNA is the next, sort of challenge that we have to face. And also building housing across the spectrum of incomes is important because ultimately we need it all. And, there's a mismatch between what's available at certain income levels or occupied by certain other income levels. And so, no, it's not going to be easy to move families around, and we can't willfully just do that. But providing housing options will also help in that particular way. So just wanted to add those 2 points.
Thank you. Anybody, any comments, any questions?
Just one quick thing that I think is important anytime we talk about the housing affordability crisis that we have in the country, but you can feel it in Connecticut, especially the more expensive states. One of the things that happens is whenever you have a discussion, a debate of how resources will be allocated, it always gets complicated. You can see the great work that we do, for example, at CHFA, we're approving using our resources at a very high cost per unit in square foot oftentimes, because that's what we have to do. It's important that we start by seeing where is it best to utilize resources and clean it up as much as possible. Because if we find the best way to spend money, to use our time and treasure, I think we can get a lot further than get bogged down in certain areas that may not be overall rise to the level of importance that we have some of the requirements as we move forward. Simple is usually better and more economically feasible. And I think we have to keep an eye on that continually.
Thank you, Greg. You're absolutely right. Any other comment? All right. Well, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So moved?
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Say.
Thank you.
No one's opposed.
Nobody's opposed. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.